The San Francisco sun shone brightly that morning, streaming through the large windows of Innovtech Solutions. Inside, David, a talented software developer, was deeply focused on his computer screen. Lines of code danced before his eyes as he worked on a new app designed to help people learn languages. David loved his job. He enjoyed the challenge of solving problems and creating things that could make a difference in the world. He'd come to America from another country years ago, dreaming of a better life. Innovtech had sponsored him, and he was now waiting for his green card to be approved. He had followed all the rules, filled out all the forms, and felt like he was building a good life for himself. He had friends, a cozy apartment overlooking the bay, and a promising career. David often grabbed coffee with his coworker, Maria, a bubbly woman who always had a smile and a funny story to share. He looked forward to seeing her later that morning. But little did he know, this ordinary workday would soon turn into a nightmare. The clock ticked on, and the sun climbed higher in the sky, unaware of the chaos that was about to unfold. San Francisco was waking up, but David's world was about to be turned upside down. Suddenly, the quiet hum of the office was shattered. A loud banging echoed through the hallways, followed by shouts and hurried footsteps. David looked up from his screen, startled. What was going on? He could hear voices yelling, but couldn't make out what they were saying. Then he saw them. Men and women in dark jackets, with serious faces and stern expressions, were moving quickly through the office. They wore badges that said, ICE. David had heard about ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but he never thought they would come here to his office. A wave of fear washed over him. His heart began to race. He watched as the agents moved closer, their eyes scanning the room. People were whispering, some were crying, and others were frozen in place, unsure what to do. The air was thick with tension. The bright, open office space that had felt so welcoming just moments before now felt like a trap. David felt a knot forming in his stomach. He tried to tell himself that everything would be okay, that he had done nothing wrong. But the fear was overwhelming, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. The ordinary workday had officially transformed into a scene from a movie he desperately didn't want to be in. Two of the ICE agents stopped directly in front of David's desk. One of them, a tall man with a stern face, pointed at him. You, he said, his voice cold and official. Stand up. David's legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand. He swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice steady. Is there a problem, officers? He asked. The agent didn't answer. Instead, he asked, Do you have your papers? David nodded. Yes, I have my work permit, and my green card application is pending. My company sponsored me. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out the documents, his hands shaking slightly. The agent glanced at the papers, his expression unreadable. That's not good enough, he said. We need to verify this. You're coming with us. David felt a surge of panic. But I'm allowed to be here. I'm working legally. My green card is being processed. He felt his voice rising in desperation. A green card, he knew, was like a special permission slip to live and work in the United States permanently. He was almost there. The agent remained unmoved. We'll sort it out downtown, he said. Let's go. Two other agents stepped forward and placed their hands on David's arms. He was being detained. The nightmare had become real. David's colleagues watched in stunned silence as he was led away. Maria, his coffee buddy, gasped and covered her mouth with her hand. She couldn't believe what was happening. Just moments ago, they were talking about weekend plans. Now, David was being taken away by IC. Whispers spread through the office like wildfire. What's going on? Why David? Is he going to be okay? Fear hung heavy in the air. Many of David's coworkers were also immigrants, and they worried that they could be next. The office felt empty and cold without David's cheerful presence. His computer screen still displayed the lines of code he had been working on, a stark reminder of the life that had been so abruptly interrupted. Maria felt a pang of guilt. She wished she had said something, done something to help David. She knew he was a good person, a hard worker, and a valued member of the team. She couldn't understand why this was happening to him. The workday ground to a halt. No one could focus on their tasks. The only thing on their minds was David and his uncertain fate. They all wondered where he was being taken and what would happen to him. The sunny San Francisco morning had turned dark and gloomy, mirroring the mood in the office. They all felt helpless. As soon as David was taken away, Innovtech's CEO, Ms. Rodriguez, called an emergency meeting with the company's legal team. She was furious. "This is unacceptable," she exclaimed. "David is a valuable employee, and he's here legally. We need to get him back immediately." The legal team, led by the sharp and experienced Ms. Chun, sprang into action. They immediately started investigating the reasons for David's detainment. They contacted ICE, demanding answers and access to David. They reviewed all of David's immigration paperwork, making sure everything was in order. After a few hours of frantic work, Ms. Chun discovered a crucial piece of information. "I think I know what happened," she announced. "It appears ICE acted prematurely. David's green card application is indeed pending, and he has a valid work permit. There seems to be a miscommunication or an error on ICE's end." Ms. Rodriguez was relieved but still angry. "So, they made a mistake?" she asked. "They detained an innocent man based on a mistake?" Ms. Chun nodded. "Unfortunately, yes. It happens sometimes. The system is complex, and there can be delays and errors. But this is a clear case of overreach. We need to get this information to ICE and demand David's immediate release." The fight to bring David home had begun. Ms. Chun and her team worked tirelessly, preparing legal documents and contacting government officials. They argued that David's detention was unlawful and that he should be released immediately. They emphasized that he posed no threat to the community and that his skills were vital to Innovtech and the San Francisco tech industry. They explained that the green card process could be slow, like waiting in a very long line. Sometimes, even though people have done everything right, there are still delays. These delays can put people like David in a difficult situation, even though they are following the rules. Meanwhile, David was being held in a detention center, a place where people who are waiting to find out if they can stay in the country are kept. He was scared and confused. He didn't understand why he was there. He missed his friends, his apartment, and his work. He felt like he was in a bad dream, hoping he would wake up soon. His lawyers assured him that they were doing everything they could to get him released. They told him to stay strong and to have faith in the legal system. But it was hard for David to remain hopeful. The days felt long and uncertain, and he worried about what the future held. He just wanted to go home. News of David's detention spread quickly throughout the San Francisco tech community. Other tech leaders were shocked and outraged. They knew that David's story could easily be their story. Many of them had employees who were also waiting for their green cards, and they feared that this could happen to them too. The CEO of another large tech company, Code Wizards, Mr. Johnson, spoke out publicly. "David's detention is a disgrace," he said in a statement. "He's a valuable member of our community, and he's being treated unfairly. We need to stand up for him and for all skilled workers who are contributing to our economy." Other tech leaders echoed Mr. Johnson's sentiments. They wrote letters to government officials, organized protests, and used social media to raise awareness about David's case. They emphasized that skilled immigrants like David were essential to the success of the tech industry, and that their contributions should be valued, not threatened. The tech community recognized that David's case was not just about one person. It was about the larger issue of immigration reform and the need for a fairer and more efficient system. They hoped that by speaking out, they could make a difference and prevent similar situations from happening in the future. Their voices joined together, a chorus of support for David. The slow pace of the immigration system became a central point of discussion. Ms. Chun explained it simply. "Imagine you're trying to get a library card," she said during a press conference. "You fill out the application, you have all the right information, but there's only one person working at the desk, and hundreds of people are in line ahead of you. It takes a very long time to get your card, even though you deserve it." She continued, "That's what the green card process is like. There are so many applications and not enough people to process them quickly. This creates long delays, and those delays can have serious consequences for people like David." These delays weren't just inconvenient. They put people's lives on hold. They created uncertainty and anxiety, and they made people vulnerable to mistakes and misunderstandings. David's case was a perfect example of how system delays could lead to injustice. The tech leaders argued that the government needed to invest more resources in the immigration system to speed up the process and reduce the risk of errors. They also called for clearer communication and more transparency so that people like David would know where they stood and what to expect. They wanted to make the process fairer and easier for everyone. It was time for a change. The public outcry and the tireless efforts of Innovtech's legal team put immense pressure on ICE. The media picked up the story, highlighting the injustice of David's detention and questioning ICE's procedures. People started asking, how could this happen? How could someone who was following the rules be treated this way? The narrative shifted from a simple immigration case to a story about government overreach and the potential for abuse of power. It raised questions about how ICE made decisions and whether they were always fair and accurate. Some people argued that ICE was just doing its job, enforcing the laws of the country. But others countered that ICE had a responsibility to act with fairness and compassion, and that they should not be making mistakes that could ruin people's lives. The debate grew louder and more intense, forcing ICE to respond. They issued a statement saying that they were reviewing David's case and that they were committed to ensuring that all immigration laws were enforced fairly and appropriately. But many people remained skeptical, believing that ICE needed to do more to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. The spotlight was now on ICE. After days of intense legal pressure and public scrutiny, ICE finally relented. Ms. Chun received a phone call with the news she had been waiting for. David is being released, the voice on the other end said. We've reviewed his case, and it's clear that he should not have been detained. Ms. Chun immediately called Ms. Rodriguez, who burst into tears of relief. Then, she called David's lawyers, who rushed to the detention center to bring him home. When David walked out of the detention center, he was greeted by a crowd of supporters, including his colleagues from Innovtech, members of the tech community, and reporters. Maria ran to him and gave him a big hug. David, we're so glad you're back, she exclaimed. David was overwhelmed with emotion. He thanked everyone for their support, saying, I couldn't have done it without you. I'm so grateful to be home. He returned to his apartment, exhausted but happy. He looked out at the San Francisco skyline, feeling a sense of relief and gratitude. The nightmare was finally over. He was free. He could finally get back to his life, his work, and his friends. The sun seemed to shine a little brighter that day. But even though David was free, the experience had left a mark. He couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability. He knew that what had happened to him could happen to others, and that the immigration system was still far from perfect. He worried about his green card application. Would this incident affect his chances of being approved? Would he always have to live with the fear of being detained again? His colleagues at Innovtech also felt uneasy. They were happy that David was back, but they couldn't forget the fear and uncertainty they had experienced during his detention. They knew that they too could be at risk. Maria, in particular, was deeply affected. She realized how easily someone's life could be turned upside down by a mistake or a misunderstanding. She became a passionate advocate for immigration reform, volunteering her time to help immigrants navigate the complex system and speaking out against injustice. Even though David was safe, the shadow of the ICE raid lingered, reminding everyone that the fight for fairness and justice was far from over. They all knew that they had to stay vigilant and continue to work towards a better future. The relief was tempered with the knowledge that the system still needed fixing. David's story serves as a reminder that everyone deserves to be treated with fairness and respect, regardless of where they come from or what their immigration status is. It shows us that even when people follow the rules, mistakes can happen and systems can fail them. We can all do our part to make things better. We can learn more about immigration issues, support organizations that help immigrants, and speak out against injustice when we see it. Just like Maria, we can become advocates for change. We can write letters to our elected officials, participate in peaceful protests, and educate our friends and family about the importance of immigration reform. We can also remember that immigrants are not just numbers or statistics. They are people with dreams and aspirations, people who contribute to our communities and enrich our lives. They deserve to be treated with dignity and compassion. By working together, we can create a more just and equitable society for everyone. We can ensure that stories like David's become a thing of the past, and that all people have the opportunity to live and work without fear. Let's build a better world, one step at a time. Every action counts. David eventually received his green card. He continued to work at Innovtech, developing amazing software that helped people all over the world. He never forgot what had happened to him, and he used his experience to advocate for change. He spoke at conferences, sharing his story and urging policymakers to reform the immigration system. He volunteered his time to mentor young immigrants, helping them navigate the complexities of the legal process. He became a symbol of hope and resilience, showing that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to overcome challenges and make a positive impact on the world. And Maria? She continued her work as an immigration advocate, fighting for the rights of all immigrants and working to create a more just and compassionate society. She and David remained close friends, united by their shared experience and their commitment to making a difference. Their story is a testament to the power of hope, resilience, and community. It reminds us that even when things seem dark, we can always find light in each other and work together to build a brighter future for all. The end.